Words you need, advanced. In this course, there are 900 words that will help to make your advanced English even better. This is lesson 5, and I'm going to talk about words 201 to 250. Don't forget that if you want to practice these words more, then you can buy the full version of the course on my website, hopkinsenglish.com, and then you'll get access to lots of tasks to practice these words. Right, let's get on with the lesson. Word number 201. Они проводили меня до вокзала. They accompanied me to the station. Of course, if they accompanied me on foot, I can also say they walked me to the station. And if they accompanied me by car, they drove me to the station. But if you want a word which does not depend on the kind of transport, you can say they accompanied me. We also use this word in music. For example, I used to play the flute, and sometimes I needed a pianist to accompany me. So I played the main sort of piece of music, and the accompanist played the background music for me. Thank you very much to my accompanist who accompanied me. Next one. К счастью, обошлось без жертв. Fortunately, there were no casualties. So, there is also a word victim, but after an accident, we often use the word casualty, because victim we often associate with crime. So if there's a crime, there's a victim. If there's a perpetrator, there's a victim. But when there's an accident, it's nobody's fault. So that's why the word casualty is more appropriate than victim if we're talking about accidents. So there was a car accident, 6 vehicles were involved, but there were no casualties. Thank goodness. Next one. Его изобретательность никогда не перестанет меня удивлять. His ingenuity will never cease to amaze me. I really like this word. Of course, cease, it's a synonym of the word to stop. Then the music stopped. The musicians stopped playing. That is elementary English. Then the music ceased. The musicians ceased to play. That is advanced and quite literary English. Let's have a look at some other verbs that are often used with cease to. So we should have that as well. Cease to. Oh. Sorry. Let's try that again. So what do we get? Ceased. It ceased to be a problem. Not seems. It ceased to be a problem. Got it. The company ceased to exist. It stopped existing. So, ceased is a synonym of stop. Next one. Она была признана виновной. So what's признана виновной? She was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Convicted of fraud. And if we look here, you will see that after convicted of, you can find all sorts of crimes. So, convicted of murder, that's убийство. Convicted of rape, изнасилование. Convicted of manslaughter, it's another kind of убийство. Но не специально, когда не специально. Convicted of treason, that's государственная измена. So, convicted of is a phrase we always use in court. The suspect was convicted The suspect was cleared. So if the court decides or the judge decides that the suspect is innocent, then they are cleared. If the judge decides that the suspect is guilty, the suspect is convicted. And the noun from convicted is conviction. Обвинительный приговор в убийстве был отменен. His murder conviction was overturned. Conviction. We also use the word conviction when somebody speaks like they are convinced in what they are saying. She spoke with conviction. Means she spoke like she really believed what she was saying. So conviction comes from the verb to convict, but also from the verb to convince, which is interesting. Another one from convict is the noun заключенные. В XIX веке многие британские заключенные были отправлены в Австралию. In the 19th century, many British convicts were sent to Australia. The convicts were convicted. So convicts, stress on the O, convicts, were convicted, stress on the I. So the stress moves. Number 205. Он вскочил на коня и ускакал прочь. He mounted his horse and rode away. So you can mount a horse, but that's not the only meaning of mount. Let's have a look at some words that often come after the verb to mount. So we want nouns that come after mount. Find collocates. Let's have a look. So you can mount a campaign. He mounted a presidential campaign. So he wants to become president. He mounted a campaign. What does that mean? He means he put it up there so everybody could see it. They mounted a surprise attack. It goes up there. You can also mount a picture when it's finished. So it's like you draw it on the table. You plan your campaign, you plan your attack on the table, and then you mount it. Then you put it up. This other phrase, evidence is mounting, just means the evidence is building up. Накапливается. It's like the evidence becomes a mountain. Гора. Tension is mounting. Try again. Tension is mounting. Tension is напряжение. It's mounting. The anticipation is mounting. It's building up. So, mount. Something goes up. Next. Некоторые ключевые доказательства были упущены из виду. Some key evidence was overlooked. It was overlooked. It was not taken into consideration. The same, I was overlooked for a promotion. They didn't take me into consideration. They chose somebody else. And overlooked has another meaning. The apartment overlooks the beach. Это окна выходит на пляж. It overlooks the beach. Next one. Это слово редко употребляется. This word is seldom used. Let's compare the words rarely and seldom. They both mean редко. So if we put in rarely, how many do we get? We get 31,757. And if we put in seldom, how many do we get? We get 8,562. So as you can see, rarely is used more often than seldom, but both are used. For me, rarely feels more conversational, seldom feels more literary. Next word. It's a great word. Russian needs this word. У меня есть трое братьев и сестер. I have 3 siblings. Siblings. Make sure when you say ing at the end, ing, tip of the tongue down, siblings. Very useful word. I actually have 3 siblings myself. I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. 3 siblings. Another word Russia needs is grandparents. Okay, родители, parents. А бабушка и дедушка? Grandparents. Why don't you have that word? Anyway, never mind. Useful word, siblings. Next one. Недалеко отсюда есть природный источник. There is a natural spring not far from here. So, источник is a spring. There's a brand of bottled water in Russia called Святой Источник. And on one side of the bottles, they have English. And they translated Святой Источник as Saint Spring, which is very funny. So, Святой Михаил is Saint Michael. I don't know. Святой Петр, Saint Peter. Saint John. Yes, Святой человек. But Святой Источник, это же не человек. And the word should be Holy Spring, Sacred Spring. So a place can be holy or sacred. It can't be saint. Saint is for people. Anyway, spring. Another meaning of spring is пружина. Эту пружину необходимо заменить. This spring needs to be replaced. Not spring, not весна. This spring needs to be replaced. Пружина. And spring is also a verb. The men sprang into action. They were relaxing and then the firemen were relaxing in the fire station. The alarm went off and they sprang into action. You know, как пружина. I think spring is called spring because nature springs into life. In spring. Woo! Life. And the last word in this set of 10, because the lesson is divided into 5 sets of 10, завод производит все виды транспортных средств. One word for транспортные средства. The factory produces all kinds of vehicles. It's a useful word, this, vehicle. And the sound is the same as the sound in serious. Also in really. So listen, really serious vehicle. It's the same long sound. Really serious vehicle. Really serious vehicle. Vehicle. Yeah, you can say vehicle. You can add a y if you like. Vehicle. Vehicle. But we don't usually do it. We just say vehicle. It's a really serious vehicle. And that's 10. So now I recommend that you pause the video and review the words. If you have bought access to the course, then you can go to my website, do the tasks, etc. If you haven't, you can just pause the video and just go back, maybe read the sentences. And then continue watching. I will talk about the next set of 10. All right, let's move on. Word number 211. На долю финансовых услуг приходится более 20% ВВП. Financial services account for more than 20% of GDP. So this phrase, account for. In fact, account is a very important word. I guess you all know about like личный кабинет is my account. Or you can talk about счет в банке is my bank account. So that's the noun. You can also give an account of an event. Have you read his account of the incident? So his account is the story. What connects all these ideas? Well, in your bank account, you see everything that comes in and everything that goes out. It's like the full picture. It's the whole story. Everything is there. When you give an account of the incident, the idea is it's a complete story. But the word story suggests maybe something is made up. But in an account, it's not made up. Accounts are about reality. Account. This, therefore this. This, therefore this. Everything is recorded in the accounts. I mean, that's why what do accountants do? They make sure that all the income and all the spending is reported. That it's accounted for. That's what accountants, buchaltera, do. So, account. In this sentence, его болезнь объясняет недостаток энергии. His illness accounts for his lack of energy. His illness explains it. It accounts for what happened. It's this idea of the story. This, therefore this. Now, в условиях демократии политики подотчетны избирателям, or at least that's the idea. In a democracy, politicians are accountable to voters. They have to give an account of their actions. So if you're accountable, you have to give an account, you have to explain. You have to say why. You have to admit your failures, etc. And the noun is accountability. Отсутствовали прозрачность и подотчетность. There was a lack of transparency and accountability. So, accountability, it's an important concept. I hope that you get the idea. Next one, 212. Башня обрушилась после землетрясения. The tower collapsed after the earthquake. It collapsed. And in Russian, the word collapse is used. Полный коллапс. Everything collapsed. Everything fell apart. In English, collapse is always down. Things always go down. If things go like that, I would use the word fell apart. The phrase fell apart. Collapse, it went down. It collapsed. Try to make the at really short and you collapse. It's collapse. Collapse. With a little pause before the P. Collapse. Collapse. Collapsed. Collapsed. Next one. Теперь вы противоречите тому, что сказали нам вчера. Противоречите. Противоречить. Now you are contradicting what you told us yesterday. And there's also the adjective contradictory. Contradictory. Let's see what we can get for contradictory. They gave contradictory statements. So заявления противоречили друг друга. These are contradictory findings. Эти выводы противоречат друг друга. I've got contradictory feelings. Like, they're mixed, смешанные чувства. Contradictory. Next one, 214. Все свое свободное время он посвящает музыке. He devotes all his free time to music. Now, we've already had the word dedicate in the course. So what's the difference between he dedicates his time to music and he devotes his time to music? I would say that when you devote, you do it with love. When you dedicate, you do it from your head. So dedication comes from the head. Devotion comes from the heart. So it depends how you feel about the action. So if you say he is dedicated to his kids, it sounds like he doesn't love them very much. But he really wants to do the best for them. He knows that he must help his family. He's dedicated. But he is devoted to his kids. means he does everything for his kids and he loves them. He does it out of love. So devotion, it's about love. Devoted to. Let's see what people can be devoted. Devoted to. Collocations. Let's see what we can get. Devoted to his work, it's devoted to study, devoted to family, devoted to music, devoted to art. So these are all labours. They are labours of love. It's all about love from the heart. Okay, 2:15. Он бесцельно плыл по жизни. He drifted aimlessly through life. So drift is usually a water word. Obviously, you can sail on water where you control your direction. You can row. But if you drift, then the current just takes you wherever the current, tечение, is going. So that's to drift. So if you drift through life, it's like you have no goals, you don't control the direction, you just drift. So if you're drifting, you're not controlling the direction. And I think that's why when we talk about a car drifting, the idea is you're not completely controlling the direction when the car drifts. But if you're really good at driving, maybe you are. I don't know. Anyway, to drift. And try to get a good zh, dr, dr, dr. When we have dr, we pronounce it zh, drift, drifted. Next one, 2:16. Я просто хочу, чтобы ты процветал. Вот процветение. I just want you to flourish. I like this word, flourish. We want to promote human flourishing. Процветение людей, maybe. Человеческое. I want you to flourish. Flourish. He really flourished when he started a new school. Flourished. And hold the l as well. Yeah, floor. It's flourished. Fleur. We move very quickly from the l to the r. Flourished. Flourished. Next one. У него нет чувства меры. He has no sense of proportion. So if we're talking about меры, we can talk about proportionality. Proportionality. And если я считаю, что ее наказание не было соразмерным, I believe that her punishment was not proportionate. I can say not proportionate, or I can say I believe it was disproportionate. If you want to use one word. Not proportionate, disproportionate. And let's have a look at what words often come after disproportionate. Disproportionate. Let's have a look. He took a disproportionate share of the blame. So he didn't deserve to take so much of the blame. He got a disproportionate share. He had a disproportionate impact on the project. So it's just one person, but he had a huge impact. That would be disproportionate. You wouldn't expect such a big impact. Disproportionate. You can talk about a disproportionate amount as well. Right, next one, 218. Она ударила его кулаком в нос. This is another word I think Russian lacks. Ударить кулаком. She punched him on the nose. So punching is what boxers do. She slapped him on the cheek. So slapped, that's with the palm of your hand. To slap is to hit with the palm of your hand. To punch is to hit with your fist. Nearly got it. To punch is... So punch with your fist, slap with your palm. Punch, slap. Okay, next one, 216. On popal w porочный kruг. He got into a vicious circle. A vicious circle. It's not good. The opposite would be he got into a virtuous circle. So a virtuous circle is when everything's getting better and better. A vicious circle is when everything's getting worse and worse. You can also say he's got a vicious dog. If the dog is vicious, it's very aggressive. So if we're talking about people, animals, then vicious means aggressive. But a vicious circle is this cycle when everything's getting worse and worse and worse. And I think you'll see, if I put the word vicious here, that the first hit will be circle. Oh, it's cycle, actually. So some people say a vicious cycle and some people say a vicious circle. We can't decide what it is. Is it a cycle? Is it a circle? You can use both. Whereas the other ones, vicious attack, vicious dog, it's aggressive and violent. 220. Пострадавшие от землетрясения нуждаются в помощи. The victims of the earthquake need help. Now, it's interesting that I explained earlier about casualties, that we often say casualty when there's nobody to blame and victim when there is somebody to blame. Now, you can't blame an earthquake, but would I say the casualties of the earthquake or the victims? I would say the victims of the earthquake, the victims of the flood. And maybe that's because when it's obviously nothing to do with people, then we can use the word victim. And we just use this word casualty when we want to clarify that, yes, people were involved, but nobody's to blame. Something like that. So, yes, you can be a victim of... We'll need collocates for this one. Let's have a look. You can be a victim of these crimes. We have abuse, rape, violence, theft, identity, bullying, fraud, discrimination. All these crimes, racism, terrorism. And actually, you have to go down a long way to find... you can be a victim of cancer. Victim of a hurricane. There you go. Only 6. So usually victims is about crimes. But you can also have something like an earthquake as well. And that's another set of 10. So it's a good time to press pause, review the words, or just take a little break. Then come back and I'll talk about the next set. Next word. 221. Считайте свои благословения каждый день. Maybe that's not a perfect translation. Count your blessings every day. Blessings. So to bless is благословить. I feel blessed. It's like God has given me many gifts. And of course at this point I must talk about when somebody sneezes, we say bless you. Not God bless you. For some reason, I've often heard in Russia people say, God bless you. God bless you. You don't need to say God. Blessings always come from God. So, you don't need to add the word God. Just bless. Bless you. When you say it, bless, bless, bless. It's a really short E. The E is clipped before the S. Bless you. Bless you. Next one, 222. Он восхищался изгибом ее бедер. He admired the curve of her hips. This word curve, you can say the road curved around the mountain. Curved. A curve. You can also, if you're drawing a graph, you can put points on the graph and then you can draw a curve which connects the points. A curve. That's a curve. When you say curve, make it long. It's a long sound. Curve. Curve. Next one, 223. Я решил избавиться от своих акций. I decided to dispose of my shares. Very often, избавиться is get rid of. I need to get rid of this old furniture. But a more formal way to say it would be, I need to dispose of this old furniture. Interestingly, we also, if something's disposable, then it means it can be thrown away. We use disposable nappies. Nappies, that's podgúzniki. In American English, it's diapers. Disposable means их можно выбросить. Disposable. Можно от них избавиться. Dispose of, disposable. There we go. Next one. Мы наблюдали за тем, как взаимодействовали шимпанзе. We observed how the chimpanzees interacted. So, взаимодействовать is interaction, how they interacted. And I think interactively is also a Russian word, isn't it? My lessons are interactive. I want to communicate with my students. It's difficult on YouTube, but when I do webinars, I try to make them interactive. So the students communicate with me, I communicate with them. Interactive. Actually, if you want to communicate with me, please do put questions in the comments. I'm very happy to answer your questions in comments under this video. So if you want to interact with me, please do put your questions in the comments. I will try to answer them. And you can also interact with me on Telegram. Actually, I have a Telegram channel, Hopkins English, and I have an Instagram as well, Hopkins English, and you can interact with me there. So, interactive. Next one, 225. Мне удалось раздобыть 2 билета на матч. I've never used that word, раздобыть. I don't know, I don't think I've ever heard it. Anyway, I've managed to obtain 2 tickets to the match. Usually I translate obtain as приобрести, to obtain. What things do we usually obtain? Let's have a quick look, because it's quite a obtain collocates. I want to obtain information. I want to obtain a license. I want to obtain permission. I want to obtain insurance. So, приобрести, получить, оформить. Basically, obtain means get. It's just a formal way to say get. Maybe that helps. Okay, the next one. We've already talked about graphs when I talked about a curve. The curve. And if the curve goes all the way to the top and then down again, then this top, the top of the curve, is the peak. Bitcoin достиг пика в $64,800. Bitcoin peaked at $64,800. It peaked. Quickly, look how 64,800 is written. It's written with a comma. I know that's strange because in Russian, commas, strange for you, because in Russian, commas are used, like to say, одна с половиной is like that with a comma. But we use a dot. 1.5 when we're talking about fractions, and we use commas after 1,000. So 64,800 with a comma. So be careful there. But yeah, peak, you can talk about the peak. That's the top of the mountain. I stood on the peak of Mount Everest. I wish. I don't think I will ever stand on the peak of Mount Everest. It's a bit too dangerous for me. I love mountains, but not Mount Everest. Too much. Anyway, the peak, and you can also say it peaked. Достиг пика. 227. Он убежденно следовал за своей мечтой. Следовал за убежденно. He pursued his dream with conviction. There's that word conviction that I talked about before. Убежденно, conviction. I missed he. But here we've got the verb следовать за, to pursue something. Not just follow, pursue. More like гоняться за, even I would say. Like гнаться, to chase something, to pursue something, to really try to grab it, to get it, to catch it. He pursued it with conviction. And here, они пустились в погоню за магазинным вором. They set off in pursuit of the shoplifter. So, to pursue, I'm in pursuit of, or the pursuit of money, the pursuit of fame, the pursuit of success. Like trying to get it, the pursuit of. Next one, 228. Она решила раскрыть свою истинную личность. Раскрыть. She decided to reveal her true identity. Раскрыть, to reveal. And знакомство с... Oh my goodness. С Tai Tsin-Chuan стало для меня откровением. Discovering Tai Chi was a revelation to me. I think Tai Chi is easier to say than Tai Tsin-Chuan. But maybe the Russian version is closer to the Chinese one. I don't know. Anyway, revelation. It was a revelation. Maybe you noticed. I don't say revelation. I make the re really long. A long r. It was a revelation to me. It was a revelation. Wow, amazing. Reveal, revelation. I think you know those words already. Строительство было приостановлено на неопределенный срок. Construction has been indefinitely suspended. So, неопределенный срок, indefinitely. Приостановлено, suspended. Why? Well, to suspend is like to hang something. If something is hanging, you can say that it's suspended. That's why Подвесной мост is a suspension bridge. The new suspension bridge opened last year. So if something is suspended, then it's not moving. So construction is suspended. It's not moving. You can also say the footballer was suspended for 3 matches. It's kind of like they hung him somewhere. He couldn't move for 3 matches. He couldn't participate. He couldn't do anything. He had to be still. So he was suspended for 3 matches. There's another good phrase. They kept me in suspense. If you're in suspense, you're waiting to get some news. You can't move, you can't do anything until you get that news. I'm in suspense. The suspense is killing me. I can't wait. I need to know. It's killing me. Suspense. Next one, 230. Мы пытаемся определить, где их оборона наиболее уязвима. So, уязвимость. We are trying to find out where their defenses are most vulnerable. So, vulnerable, уязвимо. Let's see what else can be vulnerable. Oops. Vulnerable, followed by a noun. We often talk about, so we want to protect vulnerable people. We want to protect the most vulnerable people in society. or it could be the most vulnerable groups in society. So a vulnerable person can't protect themselves. They are easily attacked. Not only attacked, but easily defeated, easily broken. So vulnerable. When you pronounce it, vulnerable, it has a very dark l, which is pronounced in the throat. Vulnerable, vulnerable, vulnerable. Try to get it. Vulnerable. We don't pronounce the ER really. Vulnerable. We don't say vulnerable. And that's all. That's another set of 10. Press pause, review the words, and then join me for the next set. Next one is number 231. Я уверяю вас, что все под контролем. I assure you that everything is under control. I assure you. Make sure you use connected speech. I assure you. I can assure. We always say, I can assure. I can assure you everything will be fine. I can assure you. Don't worry. I can assure you. Believe me. I assure you everything will be fine. And if you assure and then you assure again, we use the word reassure. He reassured me that everything would be fine. And we often say, thank you, that's very reassuring. So if I'm feeling unsure of something, but then somebody says, I don't know, is it worth making all these videos for YouTube? Sometimes I don't know. It takes a long time. Is it useful for people? I don't know. And then if you write nice comments, then I feel reassured. Yeah, it's good. People like it. People appreciate it. They want these videos. I'm doing the right thing. I feel reassured. So if you write comments and tell me that you like the videos, then you reassure me that I'm doing the right thing, that it's worth spending this time making these videos. So please feel free, because honestly, sometimes I do question, is it worth it? So please send me reassuring messages. I appreciate them. And I'm not just saying that so that YouTube promotes my video. They really do help a lot. Next one. Старайтесь поддерживать постоянную скорость на протяжении всей гонки. So постоянная, you might think, constant. But there's another word. Try to maintain a consistent speed throughout the race. I wanted to stress consistent, and what did I do? Not consistent, but consistent. Lots of s. Consistent. Lots and lots of s to stress the word. Consistent speed throughout the race. Протяжении всей гонки. Consistent. What else can be consistent? Consistent. Oops. A consistent pattern. Pattern is anything that повторяется. So there's a consistent pattern. Consistent results. So when we talk about sports, for example, if you get consistent results, then there is not a lot of change. So if something's consistent, it doesn't change very much. You can also see here, like this result is consistent with my theory. These findings are consistent with my hypothesis. Not he's. These findings. So it consistent with means it fits with. I don't need to change anything. It fits. It's consistent. Like with a graph, these results, they fit. This is my prediction, and these are consistent. They're not far away from. Whereas if something's inconsistent, it doesn't continue to follow a pattern. Now, in this sentence, адвокат указал на некоторые несоответствия в версии событий свидетеля. The attorney pointed out some inconsistencies in the witness's version of events. That was a long sentence. Inconsistencies. Because the first time they said it like this, the second time there were some changes, and the third time there were more changes. So it was an inconsistent account. A consistent account would be the same every time. In football, consistent performance, you perform at the same level every time. Inconsistent performance means 1 week you're great, the next week you're terrible. The next week you're great, the next week you're terrible. Consistent, just the same, again and again. Next one. Позвольте мне заглянуть в мой дневник. Let me consult my diary. You know about consultations. What happens in a consultation? Well, somebody can consult you. They can give you advice. But when I consult my diary, obviously I don't give my diary advice. I just look in my diary and my diary gives me advice. So it's a bit of a strange word. Gives me information. So I consult my diary, but somebody can consult me. Strange, don't know why. It's like that. Next one. Отказ задел его самолюбие. Rejection bruised his ego. So it's interesting that you can bruise an ego. Bruise is signac. He's got a bruise on his head. I don't know. But you can also bruise someone's ego. Самолюбие. There's another word. He's very egotistical. For on egoist, he's egotistical. Although we don't use it very often, we usually say he's very selfish. Or he's very self-centered. He's very self-absorbed. So selfish, self-absorbed, self-centered, egotistical. They all mean egoist. On egoist. Next one, 235. Этот закон не может быть приведен в исполнение. This law cannot be enforced. Like that. Enforced. Enforced. Like if there aren't enough policemen, then you can't enforce the law. Because people can break it and there are no consequences. Whereas if you have policemen, they can enforce the law. They can make people follow the rules. Я работаю в правоохранительных органах. I work in law enforcement. In America, the phrase law enforcement is often used to talk about the police. That the police are law enforcement because they enforce the laws. 236. Слишком много сахара может буквально убить меня. Ну, реально может. Ну, реально. Я не шучу. That's not true for me. Well, maybe too much sugar, yeah, but I'm okay with sugar. Too much sugar could literally kill me. Literally. No, literally. I'm not joking. Literally. And if you want to stress literally, it's not a lit, it's literally. Lots of l. It could literally kill me. Literally. Seriously. Literally. 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 I'm not exaggerating. I'm not joking. It could literally kill me. Мы перерабатываем пластик и стекло. We recycle plastic and glass. To recycle. If you live in Europe, then I guess you know all about recycling because European countries, especially Northern European countries, absolutely love recycling. Этот материал пригоден для вторичной переработки. This material is recyclable. There you go, recyclable material. Пакет изготовлен из переработанного пластика. This bag is made from recycled plastic. Why is there a comma there? Go away. Рядом с моим домом есть центр переработки отходов. There is a recycling center near my home. So, lots of words connected with recycling, which are more useful for you if you live in Europe than if you live in Russia, where there's not a lot of recycling going on. Okay, наши доходы упали во время пандемии. There are different ways to talk about доход, but if you're an accountant and you're talking about a company, then the correct word is usually revenue. Our revenue dropped during the pandemic. Revenue. As a self-employed person, or I could say as a sole trader, I wouldn't talk about revenue. I talk about my income. So individuals have income. Voice typing does not want to understand me. Individuals have income. And companies have revenue. That's maybe a crude way of explaining it, but it more or less works. We talk about the revenue of the company, the income of the individual. Okay, 239. Цикорий – это заменитель кофе, не содержащий кофеина. Цикорий is chicory. Chicory is a caffeine-free substitute for coffee. Now, obviously, chicory is not the word you need to learn. The word is substitute, заменитель. It's a coffee substitute. I wonder what words you can often find, what nouns before substitute. There are probably some phrases like this. An egg substitute, for example. Заменитель яйца. A sugar substitute. A blood substitute. A salt substitute. A meat substitute. I hope you can hear that when I say T-U-T-E at the end, I say ch. Because very often T-U is pronounced ch. So substitute. Ch-ch-ch-chute. Substitute. Substitute. It's a caffeine-free substitute for coffee. We also talk about substitutes in sport, or subs. So in football, you have your team, 11 players on the pitch, and then 7 players on the bench. The players on the bench, на скамейке, they are the substitutes, and they can substitute players. We have a substitute teacher this week. Кто-то заменяет учителя. A substitute teacher. It's no fun being a substitute teacher. I've done it. The kids tend to behave worse for substitute teachers. Okay, next one, 240. Он получил штраф за нарушение правил дорожного движения. He got a fine for a traffic violation. So, нарушение is a violation. He violated the rules. Again, we missed the start, but he violated the rules. You can say, don't violate my boundaries. Не нарушайте мои границы. Don't violate. Violate. And that's another set of 10. So it's a good time to press pause, review the words, and then come back and we will move on to the final set of 10 words in this lesson. See you very soon. 241. Они предали нас. Предали. They betrayed us. They betrayed what? Try again. They betrayed us. They betrayed us. It worked that time. They betrayed us. Предать. To betray. Pronunciation, betray. Remember, TR is pronounced with a sh. Betrayed us. They betrayed us. And if they betrayed us, then it's они предатели. They are traitors. So what do traitors do? Traitors betray people. They betrayed me. They are traitors. 242. прошлом месяце я получил премию. I think everybody wants to get премия at work. I got a bonus last month. So, премия is a bonus. A bonus is always something extra, something that wasn't necessarily expected. Like, it's an extra good thing. So, if you go on holiday, then теплая погода стала неожиданным бонусом. I don't know. I went on holiday in October, and the warm weather was an unexpected bonus. Pronunciation, remember, you need to pronounce a w. Bonus. Bonus. Okay, you can't see the letter W, but you need a w. Bonus. Bonus. It was a bonus. Next, what do we get? Bonus. What words often come after bonus? Bonus star. You can get bonus points in a quiz, for example. You can get bonus money. Bonus tracks, that would be a music album. If you get a bonus track, it's like an extra track at the end of the album. Bonus features, again, they're like extra features that they're kind of like подарок. Maybe that's a good way of thinking about it. Подарок is like bonus things, bonus payments. So, bonus. 243. Не делай глупостей. Don't do anything dumb. This is a particularly American way of using the word dumb. I think the original meaning of dumb was this one, она глухонемая. She is deaf and dumb. So dumb is немой. She can't speak, she's dumb. I was struck dumb is a very literary way of saying I was speechless. I couldn't say anything. But nowadays, the word dumb is used much more often to mean silly, stupid. So if I put in the word dumb here, dumb, and then a noun, I guess it will be a dumb idea, a dumb person. Let's see. Dumbass. That's like, you idiot, you dumbass. It's a dumb question. That's a dumb idea. I don't like dumb people. So it means stupid. Тупой, I guess, in a lot of these contexts. It's not very polite. Dumb. Okay, the next one. Дерево плавает, а металл тонет. Wood floats, but metal sinks. Wood floats, but metal sinks. We've already talked about drift. Это плыть по течению воды. It drifts. It drifted down the river. But the opposite of to sink is to float. Some people float. Some people just lie in the water and they float. I don't float. I sink. Maybe because I don't have a lot of body fat. That's why I just sink like a stone in the water. I don't float, but there we go. Wood floats, metal sinks. Next one. Он пристрастился к азартным играм. Он не может без этих игр. He is addicted to gambling. So, gambling is азартные игры. He took a gamble is another way to say he took a risk. He took a gamble. He took a risk. Next one. Он пытался ввести суд в заблуждение. Ввести в заблуждение. He tried to mislead the court. Mislead. Mislead. He tried to mislead the court. And because lead is lead, led, led, mislead is the same. He misled the court. He succeeded. The court was misled. And there's also an adjective. Внешность может вводить в заблуждение. Appearances can be misleading. So be careful with appearances. What else can be misleading? Misleading statements, заявления, misleading information, misleading claims, misleading advertising. You don't be careful. Adverts can be misleading. It was a misleading impression. Впечатления, they can also be misleading. Могут вводить в заблуждение. So this misleading, I think it's quite a useful phrase. Misleading. Misleading. Okay, 247. Here we go. ДНК несет информацию в виде сложной последовательности нуклеотидов. I should stick to English. DNA carries information in a complex sequence of nucleotides. Not nucleotides. That would be ядерная. Tide is море, когда залив, leaf. It's not about nucleotides. It was meant to be nucleotides. A complex sequence of nucleotides. Got it. So sequence is, in this case, сложная последовательность, a sequence. Complete the sequence. Square, triangle, circle, square, triangle, circle, square, triangle, circle. That's a sequence. Sequence. When you say this word sequence, long s, quite a short e, because it comes before k. Sequence. The sequence. And, you know, the word consequence, there's a reason why consequence has the word sequence in it. Consequence. Because consequence, it's part of the sequence. This, therefore this. Consequentially. Next. Моя рубашка села. Лучше не съежилась. Села, I think, here. Is it like that with... Or села? Or села? Something like that, anyway. It got smaller. Стало меньше. My shirt shrank in the wash. Not shrink. My shirt shrank in the wash. Not sang. No. My shirt shrank in the wash. No. I can't do it. Shrink. Shrank. Shrunk. I can do shrink and shrunk, but apparently I can't do shrank. It shrank. No, rang. I feel like voice typing doesn't believe that shrank is a word, but I promise it is. Drink, drank, drunk. Shrink, shrank, shrunk. I think a lot of people use shrunk as the second form, like my shirt shrunk in the wash, but I have checked and that is incorrect. It is shrank. The correct form is shrank, like drank. My shirt shrank in the wash. It got smaller. It shrank. Next one, 249. Мне нужно подать налоговую декларацию на следующей неделе. Налоговая декларация is a tax return. Подать is submit. I need to submit my tax return next week. Shall we have a look at things that we submit? Submit, and then collocates, noun. What things do we often submit? You can submit an application for something, подать заявление на что-то. You can submit a report. That's отчеты, that will be at work, I guess. Submit questions. It's official. You can submit an official question, or submit a request, or submit a form. So, to submit. Officially подать. Something like that. And the very last word in today's lesson, number 250, она поклялась рассказать всю правду. She vowed to tell the whole truth. So a vow is a solemn promise. So it's not just a promise, it's a vow. It's more serious, more solemn than a promise. We most often talk about vows when we talk about weddings. Wedding vows. Not vowels. I talk about vowels a lot, glasní zvuky, but here I'm talking about they made their wedding vows. Not vowels. Oh dear, it's getting worse. They made their wedding vows. Vowels again. Oh dear, do you know what? I think it's time for me to stop. My computer doesn't understand me anymore. I don't know if you ever get this feeling after a while, that the computer just stops understanding. I don't know. Anyway, vows, wedding vows. A vow is a solemn promise. That's all. Well done. That's another 50 words that we have done together. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Like I said before, please do leave me some reassuring comments under this video so that I know that I'm doing the right thing. Or if you have any suggestions, I also appreciate them. And soon I will be back with the next set of 50 words. Bye.